The grey partridge, Perdix, is a fascinating species of bird that has a deep and complex history tied to agriculture, conservation, and human interaction with the natural world. To truly understand the story of the grey partridge, we must first dive into its natural history, its rise to prominence in various cultures, and the troubling decline that led to its current status as an endangered species. Along the way, we'll explore how human activities have both harmed and helped the grey partridge, and what efforts are being made to save this iconic bird from disappearing altogether. The grey partridge is native to Europe and parts of Asia, and it has historically been found in farmland, grasslands, and open woodlands. Its striking plumage, with a mixture of reddish-brown, grey, and black feathers, has made it a recognizable bird in the wild. It's a medium-sized game bird, known for its distinctive call and the way it hides in long grasses or underbrush. Partridges, including the grey partridge, are ground-dwelling birds, meaning they prefer habitats where they can forage for seeds, insects, and other small foods. They also make their nests on the ground, which makes them vulnerable to predation and disturbance, especially in agricultural areas. Historically, the grey partridge was an important game bird in many parts of Europe. Hunting the bird was a popular pastime for nobility and peasants alike, and the bird's meat was considered a delicacy. Partridges were often featured in literature, folklore, and even heraldry, symbolizing the connection between the land and the people who worked it. This close relationship between humans and grey partridges was key to the bird's initial spread across the landscape. Farmers and landowners would sometimes intentionally create habitats that were suitable for partridges by planting hedgerows or maintaining grasslands, not just for hunting, but for the broader benefit of local ecosystems. As agriculture evolved over the centuries, however, the way humans interacted with the land changed. The industrialization of farming, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries, led to the decline of many species, including the grey partridge. The introduction of large-scale monoculture farming, where a single crop is grown over vast areas of land, meant that the natural, varied habitats that partridges relied on began to disappear. Crops like wheat, barley, and oats replaced the diverse range of plants that used to grow in wild meadows and woodlands, reducing the availability of the seeds and insects that grey partridges fed on. This loss of habitat was one of the main reasons for the decline of the grey partridge. But it wasn't the only factor. As farming became more mechanized, the use of pesticides and herbicides increased. These chemicals, designed to kill pests and weeds, also had the unintended effect of poisoning the food sources of grey partridges and other wildlife. For example, many insects that partridges rely on for food were killed off by pesticides. Herbicides also destroyed the plants that provided shelter and nesting sites for the birds. Without these vital resources, the partridge population began to plummet. The grey partridge's decline wasn't just due to changes in farming practices. Hunting, both legal and illegal, contributed to their decreasing numbers as well. Although hunting regulations were put in place in many countries, the demand for game birds was still high, and illegal hunting continued to be a threat to the population. Even though grey partridges were often bred in captivity for hunting purposes, this did little to protect wild populations, which continued to dwindle. By the late 20th century, the grey partridge had become a species of concern in many countries. In the United Kingdom, for instance, the population had fallen by over 90% since the 1960s. This dramatic decline prompted conservationists and wildlife organizations to step in and try to halt the bird's downward trajectory. The first step in this conservation effort was to better understand why the partridges were disappearing. Scientists studied the birds' habitat preferences, feeding habits, and reproduction rates, and they discovered that the loss of suitable farmland habitats, particularly the loss of hedgerows, field margins, and mixed farming systems, were the primary drivers behind the decline. Recognizing that the grey partridge's survival depended on a healthy and diverse landscape, conservationists began working to restore the bird's natural habitat. This led to a variety of programs and initiatives aimed at improving conditions for grey partridges. In the United Kingdom, for example, the government, along with various NGOs, initiated schemes to reintroduce hedgerows and wildflower strips into agricultural areas. These measures provided the necessary cover for the birds to nest, and the plants offered food for both the adult birds and their chicks. Another significant aspect of grey partridge conservation was the implementation of more bird-friendly farming practices. The concept of agri-environment schemes emerged, where farmers were incentivized to adopt practices that were more beneficial for wildlife. This included planting cover crops, leaving certain areas of fields fallow, and minimizing the use of harmful pesticides and fertilizers. These changes created a more hospitable environment for the grey partridge, allowing the birds to thrive in areas that had once been too inhospitable. Farmers were also encouraged to create specific habitats for the grey partridge, such as setting aside areas of their land where the birds could forage and nest without fear of disturbance. These areas were carefully managed to ensure that the needs of the partridges were met throughout the year. In some cases, farmers worked with conservation groups to monitor the success of these measures, gathering data to better understand the needs of the birds and improve conservation strategies in the future. One of the most interesting conservation efforts for the grey partridge involved captive breeding and release programs. While these programs are controversial in some cases, they have been effective in certain situations where the wild population was too small to recover on its own. By breeding grey partridges in captivity and releasing them into carefully chosen areas, scientists hope to boost the wild population and restore some of the genetic diversity that had been lost. However, these releases have had mixed results. In some cases, released birds struggle to adapt to the wild and may not survive long enough to breed successfully. This has led to a growing recognition that habitat restoration and other preventative measures are far more effective than simply releasing birds into areas where the conditions are not right. Perhaps one of the most important contributions to grey partridge conservation has been public awareness and education. As more people became aware of the bird's plight, they were motivated to support the initiatives designed to help it. This support has come not just from conservation groups, but also from farmers, hunters, and ordinary citizens who care about preserving biodiversity. Through education and outreach, people learned about the importance of sustainable farming practices, the need to protect habitats, and the role of grey partridges in the broader ecosystem. There has been a growing recognition that saving the grey partridge is not just about protecting one species, but about preserving the health of entire ecosystems. The partridge is often seen as an indicator species. Its decline is a sign that something is wrong with the environment. By protecting the grey partridge, we are also ensuring that other species of wildlife can continue to thrive in these ecosystems. Additionally, the grey partridge plays an important role in maintaining the balance of the food chain, as it helps control the populations of certain plants and insects. By saving this bird, we're preserving a vital piece of the natural world that benefits many other species, including humans. Over the years, there has been some success in restoring the grey partridge population, especially in areas where habitat restoration and changes in farming practices have been implemented. In the United Kingdom, for example, the grey partridge has shown signs of recovery in certain regions. The bird's population has increased in some areas thanks to the conservation efforts that have been put in place. However, challenges remain. The global population of grey partridges is still at risk, and their status as an endangered species has not been entirely reversed. Conservation efforts must continue, and the bird's fate remains tied to the success of large-scale habitat restoration and sustainable farming practices. Looking forward, the future of the grey partridge depends on ongoing efforts to balance the needs of agriculture with the preservation of natural habitats. The success of conservation initiatives will also depend on the cooperation of farmers, conservationists, and the public. There is still much to be done, but there is hope that with continued dedication and the right strategies, the grey partridge will no longer be at risk of extinction. The story of the grey partridge is a reminder that human actions, both harmful and helpful, can have a profound impact on the natural world, and that by working together, we can help protect the species that share our planet. In conclusion, the grey partridge's story is one of both decline and hope. From its days as a common and cherished species in the agricultural landscapes of Europe to its sharp decline due to changes in farming and habitat destruction, the bird has faced significant challenges. However, thanks to the tireless work of conservationists, farmers, and the public, there are signs of recovery. The future of the grey partridge remains uncertain, but with ongoing conservation efforts, it is possible that this iconic bird will continue to be a part of the natural world for generations to come. The grey partridge's journey is not just a lesson in the fragility of nature, but also a testament to the power of human intervention when we work in harmony with the environment. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like, share it with someone who loves grey partridges, and subscribe to our channel, Wild Hope, to listen to more interesting stories. Thank you.